Charlotte. Apex a dozen. Yeah, yeah, as well. Okay, great.
Yeah.
That's Apex a dozen.
You good? Okay. Good afternoon. We will get underway, and with this being the last Risk and Audit Committee meeting of the triennium. So I'd like to welcome you all here. First of all, there is no public forum, but apologies. I have an apology from Graham Nayland and Ned Tofari. And I think everyone else is present. So I'd like to move that we accept the apologies for those two, and seconded Councillor Webb. All those in favour? Thank you. Agenda item 2, members' interests. Do any councillors have any financial or non-financial interest in today's meeting, Risk and Audit Committee meeting? No? Then I would move that we no one has any financial non-financial interest. Seconded Councillor Weston. All those in favour? Thank you. Agenda item number 3. The minutes of the last meeting, which was held on the 15th of August. Are there any alterations of fact or detail or questions? Oh yes, there's 30. Yeah. Thank you for that. No. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Seconder for that, Councillor Grafton. All those in favour? Thank you. Passed unanimously. Okay, agenda item number 4, which is the action point list. And there are 3 items on the action point list. There is an update for 249 there. Is there any discussion on the action list? Councillor Fallon.
I was just not sure what the second action point was regarding, and I wondered if we could add a little bit of information, because it says number 252, but no context.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
So that's the Risk Explorer workshop, which was the yes, so that's what Rex is. It's the new tool that needs to be populated with all the council infrastructure assets and things. I think that's what it's referring to.
So perhaps they could just be, yeah, they could be expanded on the table.
Risk Explorer, it's an online tool thing that council's using to, it's what do you call it? Mapping the assets and their hazard overlays and all that they're exposed to. Staff might be able to extrapolate on that, but that's basically it.
Are there any other questions regarding the action list? Okay, I'm happy to move that we receive the September action point list for information. So a seconder for that. Councillor Grafton. All those in favour? Thank you. Carried unanimously. Agenda item number 5, which is the work plan, a work plan that you've seen several times, and the work plan is how the agenda was set for today. Are there any questions on the work plan as it is? Councillor Reedy.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. 2 questions, if I may. On page 22, paragraph 3, bullet point 3, cultural hub.
We're on the previous agenda item at the moment. Just the work plan.
We're just on that one.
Oh, apologies. I thought we'd.
No. Yeah, so we'll get to that.
I stand corrected.
No worries. Okay, I'm happy to move that the Risk and Audit Committee receive the Risk and Audit Work Plan for information. Seconded, Councillor O'Keefe. All those in favour? Thank you, carried unanimously. Now, agenda item number 6. And this was prepared by Penny Bicknell, and it's the Better Off Funding Status Report and the Repton Campground Accommodation Status Report. Is there any follow-up comments? Yes. Thank you, Penny. Yeah.
Time. Just a couple of comments. I think, Councillor Reedy, you were probably just about to refer to the Westport News last week that was asking a question of feasibility report for the Cultural Community Hub. It was actually completed in early 2024 and it was discussed with councillors at a workshop in July. The report is owned by the Buller Cultural Community Hub group and was kept confidential by them due to the sensitivity of the sites in question in the feasibility report. Just a note, the council do not own this report. The group or the trust intend to update council once the concept design work is completed, which will be towards the end of this year. My other comment on the paper is the Repton Campground opening went really well on Friday and the sun shone us, which was good.
So questions regarding this report? Councillor Reedy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Paragraph 4 on page 20, whatever it is. Bullet point. So paragraph 4, Repton Campground Accommodation Project. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Bullet point 5. There's a license to occupy on that area. I'm not aware that I thought that was property owned by BDC. And so why have we got a license to occupy, please? Just a question.
This was the agreement with Federation that you all saw when we put everything forward. So they have a license to occupy the campground cabins. That's the mechanism for them renting cabins.
Okay, that's fine. It's just that we also have license to occupy on road and what have you.
Slightly different.
So it's different, but it's a license to occupy. Happy with that. Thank you. And the other one is page 26, where we talk about, and there's a comment just on the state of play, community hub feasibility. So what we've basically got is concept work split between BOF funding, which we're aware of, and funding being managed by home builders from the Resilience Trust Fund. Now, I would have thought that was a conflict of interest because home builders, of course, have got a vested interest, not money-wise, but an interest in the community hub, and that's all been explained before about their interest, but yet here we are saying that they're going to manage funding from the RTF. I believe that's a conflict of interest. Can someone just prove me wrong, please?
Well, they're managing it on behalf of the NGOs. They're one of 3 NGOs that are part of that group. And I believe they put the application into the Resilience Trust on behalf of the group, therefore that's why they're managing it. So that they got that part of the funding on the premise that they had the 50,000 funding from Better Off funding for the concept work. There's nothing new in that. They've been managing it since last year.
I'm right.
Okay. Okay, the other questions related to the report. It is quite inclusive. No. I do want to thank you, Penny, for the report. It is pretty comprehensive reading, and it looks like there has been a lot of work done, positive work done, which is great. Better off, we are better off. So On that note,
Thank you.
I would like to move that the Better Off Funding and Reefton Campground Project Status Report summary dated the 17th of September 2025 be received. Have a seconder for that. Councillor Weston, any discussion related to that before we put it to the floor? Yes.
Page 28, we've got the stormwater concept, and on page 29, it says the critical water surplus. An application's been put forward for that to be used for resilient Westport. Has that approval been got yet? It said it's awaiting approval. So have we got the approval?
Are there any other questions related to that report? No, in which case I'll put that motion to the floor. All those in favour? Passed unanimously. Thank you. We'll move on to agenda item number 7. Once we get to it. Page 46. This is the Projects Control Group report. This was prepared by Jess Curtis. Jess, would you like to speak to your report?
So I just wanted to mention a couple of things. First of all, with the inclusion of the project and program framework to the wider organisation, the report will be going through some changes to broaden it. So one of the things that, so that we don't end up having too cumbersome a report, I'd like to do is look to put a projects list online instead and have links to online, for example. The couple of things I wanted to talk to around this particular report was that there was a high risk added around the Reefton swimming pool, with cost becoming a really significant factor there. So this was worked through at the Anangahua Community Board meeting in September. And so that will be being reviewed with the project manager to update in future reports. The other thing that this report shows is the 25-26 carry forwards for just infrastructure of the 4.7 million that it shows in the early pages. Since the report was done, Mokanui Campground Sewerage design has been confirmed, so that will move into the tender process as final detailed design. The IAF construction funding has started to be worked through at an accountant level, so that will start also changing on the future reports. And in particular, the trunk main stage 2 livening and tidy up construction work has also happened on site.
Awesome. Now we're all familiar with the report. Councillor Fowler.
Can I just ask, so you see that you're going to change the reporting to have some links to online. What's the reason for that?
My concern is that it might become quite a cumbersome report and quite large. And so to try and put maybe the project scope and delivery dates as an online Word document, PDF probably, under our key projects page, I thought might just be a little bit more accessible. You can still see it. It will be publicly available that way as well, but it will just make the report probably 10 pages shorter, which might be a little bit nicer.
From my experience, it would be preferable to have it actually included in the agenda. Yeah.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor.
With regards to IAF, how far away from going to procurement is some of that?
We have a project manager that will be signing up at the end of this week, actually catching up tomorrow to finalise the contract. And so the first thing they'll be doing is getting all the construction procurement documents out. So I would imagine in the next few months.
Councillor Sampson.
I concur with Annalise. I think the reports would be far better here than somewhere else online. And if I could go to page 55 and being completely predictable, It's to do with the redecking of the bridge. And the amount of 870,000 was a figure that was in the 23 report. So how confident are you that we can bring that in, considering it's 2 years old, and any other work that might be required is would be added to that? And again, what is the 3,700 already spent? So, you know, it's two questions there. How confident can you be that on a 2-year report, 2-year-old report, that you could bring it in on that? And what have we spent to date, the 3,700, please?
So the project manager's reporting it within the 870,000. The particular project manager for this one's very experienced, and so I believe he would have included cost escalation into his forecasting. The 3,700 is around that project management's set up around getting procurement documents and underway, and also the design underway. So that's where those costs will have fallen.
Can I see those documents when they go out, please? The tender documents. Once they close, I don't have to.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. Go on, Councillor Reddy, I know you want to.
Chair, just some questions of May, please. Previously we've had the portfolio summary at the start of this. It's not in here this time round, not on the agenda item. Just wondering why. And in that portfolio summary, they used to record that this portfolio summary had the 3 colours, red, amber, and so on, green. It's not on here, but also in that particular report, in that page, talked about at the moment we're focused on projects over 100 grand. At the moment, we're just focused that there will be a time when we bring in projects under 100,000. But that was earlier on in the year we were told that. So 2 questions on that one at the beginning. That is, one, why has that been removed, and when can we expect to see reporting on under $100,000 reporting? And I have another question afterwards.
So I moved the RAG descriptions into the council report before the attachment. So that's on page 47. And in terms of the projects under 100,000, I've described them as minor projects. That's exactly what I'm trying to do with reformatting the report, is to see how we can condense this all without becoming an overwhelming report and losing the key focus of the risk that is the basis for it.
Councillor Reddy, number 3.
Thank you. And one after that, if I may, please. It's more an observation. When we do carryovers, very impressive. We've got the carries over there for from 24, 25 to go into 25, 26. But we haven't adopted the resolution yet, which is another item to come up further down. We don't preempt. I thought governance was at this table here. Things that are done regarding 25, 26 are decisions made by governance, not by staff. So I just want, it's premature in my view, a minor thing if necessary, but the next question I've got though, we're talking about major variances through the, and one of them was on page 49, major variances, but yeah, we're talking about July costs and variance as a result of actual costs incurred, but planned for later in the year and so on and so forth. But we don't employ, and I've stated this on more than one occasion, we do not use accrual accounting at BDC until year-end accounts. So accrual accounting should actually contra a lot of these variances, unless of course it's to do with the phasing of the budget. So a bit concerned about that. And then I'm going to go on to, if I may, the return to service. Now, we've got the letter here. It's probably not a question. Maybe if I can bring it up when we do the,
Yep.
that's okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions? Councillor West.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Karamea Highway corner widening, is that result of recent floods or storms?
There was a report done, I'm sorry, I can't remember the year, and it was to do with the tightness of the corners on the bluff and the milk tankers in particular going around there. So there were 16 sites identified in the 21 to 24 training from NZTA. There was some funding done, funding put aside, and a project done around 6 from memory of those 16 sites. So this is to try and continue on that work, and I think some of the sites are already underway. 3 of them, yeah.
Councillor O'Keefe.
Just a couple of questions. Carnegie Library, what's happening with, are you guys going to apply for some more funding, or what's actually happening with that now? Because it's become a bit of a standstill, hasn't it?
Councillor Sampson.
Well, we've just got to get back together again. We got turned down, and we have to relook at it as to raising some extra funding, and we're yet to have a meeting. So it's a matter of waiting for the elections to happen and see where we go from there. Whether I'm still on the committee or not, yeah, and where it goes.
Thank you. And yet another question, right?
Yeah, around the sludge treatment and disposal, who's actually overseeing this project? And what have the pros and cons been with it? Just, yeah, it's a new initiative, right?
So that's something that we're actually going to meet internally about in October, because the project seems to have 2 parts, and so that might reflect in the report in the future as well. So there's a capital component, which is what you're seeing, which is very much an early options stage of what we can do around shelters above the sludge so that we stop leaching, that kind of thing, and actually design that. The other part is operational around green waste and how that can be used from the transfer station into the composting process. And so that's where we just want to tighten up that scope a little bit better, because that is something, I mean, you can see that it's in red, so that is something that we're putting a bit more active management into.
You're sure? All right, in that case, I'm going to put the motion to the floor, and then we can discuss afterwards that the report, Buller High School, Buller District Council Projects Control Group report dated 17th September 2005 be received. Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Howard. Any discussion regarding that? Councillor Sampson, do you have something? Oh, Mr. Reddy, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Fairly damning as far as I'm concerned regarding the return to service. We've got at the moment carrying a net variance of 700 or just over 700,000. We've got 254,000 that is yet to be, which I believe might have been part of return to service. We've got about $1 million here. Now, here we've been saying in these some notices to the community that we've been successful in completing a lot of these projects through the PMO and the like, and I agree with that. But no one's ever commented on the fact that completion of those projects has come at a massive cost in terms of budget overruns. And the first thing I'm going to say is this has happened before both Jess and Anthony. They've picked up the legacy, but we still have to fund that 700,000, and this will come up through the obviously the PMO agenda item. And yes, I will be discussing that. But as far as this is concerned, we're carrying it forward. But when are we going to just close it off and say the ratepayer is going to have to pay? In fact, we've probably already taken out $1 million anyway in loans. But when is this going to drop off? Because we know now that the NZTS are not going to pay it. Well, that was a question.
That was sort of a question. Sir.
Chair, thank you. So I suppose from our point of view, we have been working with NZTA for quite some time to get their position on where things are at. The letter that we received a couple of weeks ago, which is later in the agenda, clarifies some aspects and doesn't quite clarify other aspects. So the 254,000 repayment is clear, and that'll be talked to later by Simon. The remainder, which is the relates to the $708,000 variance that Councillor Reedy's talked about. We have NZTA in a meeting next week talking about various issues, including what the letter actually means relating to this, because there are a number of interpretations. So we want to get full clarity from them in terms of exactly what they mean with their letter. Internally, we've got two different interpretations, both at different ends of the spectrum. So until we get real clarity on exactly what they mean with that, we can't really report any further. I understand Councillor Reedy's concern that this has been going on for some time, but it has been the subject of a lot of work with NZTA culminating in their letter a couple of weeks ago. I'm sorry, I can't give any more clarity on whether of how much residual there may be for Buller to spend or not, but we would like to get that clarity as soon as we can now that they've come to a position.
So are you expecting that decision after your meeting with them?
We're expecting a lot more clarity. We're not meeting the decision maker, but we're meeting one of the people who will inform that decision.
Thank you. Councillor Reedy.
Am I allowed to just respond to that, Mr. Chair?
Just a quick response, of course.
Okay, well, for me, the letter's quite self-explanatory. The price level adjustment request will not be supported by NZTA. That's fairly quite clear cut to me. We can sugarcoat as much as we like, that's fine. But the other thing is, they also said it was identified between 500 and 600 of overspent work had been claimed, and they will not pursue that for repayment. So what I'm, just turn around to me and say that NZTA, even though they've said we will not be supporting it, here we are saying, well, we'll go back and have a chat. I'm sorry, this is quite clear, quite damning as far as I'm concerned, and we don't require the sugarcoating.
Thank you, Councillor Howard.
I'm happily be corrected if I'm wrong, but my understanding was a lot of this is about the interpretation and what's better off and not. And I know a lot of consideration was given at the time of the roading that it was no use putting it back to as it was. So there's a set for to washouts and the same thing happening over and over again. So I guess in the pressure of the amount of work, it made sense for some things to improve what was there, whether it was extra waterways or whatever else. And so that work was done, but then different staff and that and the different at NZTA, and that was then what that discussion about what was actually betterment and not betterment. So I think we've got to be careful with sort of laying blame, some of it's interpretation and some of it, even if it's not being paid for NZTA, it made sense to have that work done. So I don't think we can say it's irresponsible work. So I think we're sort of clear on what we're saying to the public.
Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I kind of share the confusion of staff. Yeah, and I won't speak through the chair, but in the letter, I think the letter, as pointed out by Councillor Reedy, is confusing. The first point I agree sounds very clear, but the second paragraph goes on to say they won't be seeking recovery of that, or words to that effect. So I think that is the bit that we do need to clarify. One line says we don't support that additional funding, and then the second paragraph goes on to say, names a figure and says we won't be seeking repayment of that. So I think that's the bit, in my view, when I read the letter, it is contradicting itself. So we do need to figure out which one it is.
Well, I mean, I guess we can speculate all we like, but we've heard that there is a meeting coming up, and then until we get an outcome from that meeting, There's no point, it is only speculation. So I think probably there's no point discussing it further until we have an outcome. And then we'll know what we're discussing. Now that motion has been put to the floor. It's been moved and seconded, so I'm going to ask for a vote, and all those in favour of that the BDC Projects Control Group report dated 17th September 2025 be received. All those in favour? All those against? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Thanks, Jess. And next item, agenda item number 8, which is a Port and Dredge, the operations report. And invite Dominic Vince to the table. And Dominic, do you want to speak to your report? Agenda item number 8.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Hello, everybody. Much like Jess, I'm trying to develop the report for you guys to have a better understanding of what we're doing, what I'm doing. So this report is split into two: commercial side and the navigational safety side. So that's the safety of ships, maritime users, boaters, etc. In our space, then you can see again looking at the supporting the region in the recreational space. So yeah, it's been pretty busy for obvious reasons. Steve's departure has changed a few things. So yeah, happy to answer any questions at this stage.
Okay. The report again is quite inclusive, and it does include the presentation from the recent presentation as well. Other questions of Dominic regarding the Dredge report activity? Councillor Howe?
This is more in general, the media comments about implying that the Dredge wasn't capable of doing that work at Wanganui. Could you still bit outline what the reason it didn't go back there? Was it a scheduling one, or was there anything about the capabilities, or just a bit of an explanation about what's the true story?
Yeah, so we went up there to in conjunction with Wanganui to do some trials around the bell pump and some normal dredging up there. It was all very tight before the end of the start of the whiteback season, right? So and we had some weather windows because it's it's quite exposed to the environment. The wharf is very close to the entrance. It's not like here where you can head up the river quite a bit. So there's always those issues. And yeah, we had a number of challenges with surge alongside the wharf. The guys were up with broken spring lines, and there was just some real strong environmental challenges coupled with trying to bed in the bell pump, and it was just the perfect storm to pardon the pun, but the weather came along again and we had to get out before the whiteback season. So yeah.
So the fact that they're using a method of breaking it now rather than to have the coatera going back, and because I believe it's still being done within the whiteback time period anyway. So I guess is it identified there's some types of dredging that the bell pump's not really suitable for, or?
Well, it's still working through it, and the guys are coming towards the end of the month to do some more roof work, and we'll fine tune the bell pump. But up there, the council was in a position where it had to get the channel dug to QS Shipping to get their vessels out, so they've had to look at alternative options and to talk to them today. They're very much about trying out different things, of which the Karatiri bell pump was one. So they've gone to this other option because they've their backs are against the wall. Having spoken to them today, they've still got some challenges with their resource consent for dumping, because it's dumping in the river, which is not ideal, and it needs to go like we have here, where we've got a dump site out to sea. So they're working on that, and that's underway. And some tenders documents will be coming out either late this year or early next year. We're certainly in the mix for doing regular dredging, and when we fine tune the bell pump, we'll be working to there as well, but they were very impressed with the dredging we did do.
Just reviewing the potential contracts that are coming up, they generally seem to be smaller than what some of the past, but do you think our projected repayment, a budget needs to be re-looked at for the next 10 years, or do you think it's still relevant?
I'm just taking over to get the RIF working, and we'll look at how the setup for the dredges going forward. But those budgets, I think, are very much live and need to be monitored and updated all the time, I believe.
Thank you, Howard. Councillor Sampson.
Just on that rift work, you've got half of it done before you went away up to Wanganui, and you said it's going to take 6 months to complete the rest. It just seems a long time, considering you've got half of it done already, that it's going to take up to 6 months to complete.
So there's a lot of stuff in the RIF. So there's the railroad, there's the wharf improvements, and there's the new pontoon. So I met with Phil Ross this week, and we've done 12 days of the 30 we have got budgeted for dredging. So we've still got some in the back pocket. We're going to do another 7 days dredging towards the end of the month, weather permitting, which will be row only. So that allows us to have some dredge time in the back pocket for when we are able to remove the existing wharf area from the Tallies Ice Tower along the front of the road, because we need to go and dig that out and get that deeper. So we've still got some dredge time in our back pocket. So the RIF money covers a lot of other things. So the new pontoon area, for example, we haven't even gone to an engineering design yet. We've just got an idea that we have. So we're a long way from that.
So therefore you use some of it without having an idea.
No,
what you're using it for?
Yeah, no, we're using it for the railroad. We've done the railroad stuff, and I'm happy to share with you the soundings we've done from the before and after, and it looks really impressive. They've really widened an area, and they're just looking to cut a corner off to enable ships to swing in there. So they've done great work there, and remarkable lot of work for the mere 12 days that they worked there for that space. Yeah, so that's really good.
And the other thing, the fact that you went up to Wanganui on a trial to test a piece of equipment out, was that wise in hindsight?
Well, I have no responsibility over that decision. I'm not the dredge manager, I'm sorry. Yeah, Steve was supposed to be here to answer these questions, but obviously that's not the case. And yeah, I'm the port manager and the harbour master, I'm sorry.
Through the chair, I can potentially answer that question. The decision was made. We believe it was a sound decision. The opportunity was there to trial the bell pump. It was either then or nothing at all, and we decided that it was worth the opportunity to get up there and put that to the test. So we've yes undertaken some days of dredging. We've come out in a break-even position. We've trialled the bell pump. We're now back in Westport, and we'll continue with those trials and perfect the work ready for future work. So we believe it was the right decision to make. It was either that or nothing, and we think it going ahead and doing the work was the right thing to do.
Councillor Webb.
Just had a question about the regional wide navigational safety, about the discussions happening with other councils around that. Is that is that coming back to the council table for some strategic direction, or how's that going to work?
Yes, it will go. Yeah, it's very, very high level discussions with Paul's opposite in Grey at this stage about what life might look like going forward. They feel very they feel that Westport's in a great position, just particularly around like websites and the systems we have here. Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, you had a question?
Yeah, so mine was just clarity on confidence around crewing of the dredge for the RIF going forward with the resignation of Mr. Christensen. Are we confident that we've got that in place and can do what we need to do safely and whatever?
Yes.
Good.
Councillor Reddy.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a bit concerned about the comments from Paul regarding, we went up there and did all this and did that and so on. That's fine, but quite embarrassing when, with the bell pump, we hadn't tested it at all. We basically put it together when we're up there. Then, well, for whatever reason, the weather turned foul, and so we had to come back. But in the meantime, of course, we know that there's a dredge that's gone up there, a barge dredge from Port Otago, which has been used there before, and they're going to continue over the whitebait season because of the urgency attached to the dredging work that's required. We're talking about breaking even perhaps on this exercise that for Wanganui, the way I see it, we didn't fulfil the contract. I should imagine there was something signed. And is there any comeback on council for the fact that we did not complete the contract, and are we up for some sort of liability?
Through the chair, no, we're not up for any further liability. We completed a number of days' work up there, and we've had discussions with Port Whanganui on invoicing, and as I mentioned before, we're in a break-even position. I'll just check with Dominic. You've been speaking with Port Whanganui on the completion of that work? I know there's further work that we're going to tender for. Was there something you can add to that on the outstanding work?
Yeah, as I said earlier, there's resource consent issues to allow us to go and do more detailed work. There's a backhoe at the moment doing the digging, and they had a previous backhoe which didn't work. We've had a go and tried to perfect the space, but there were some issues around depths as well. So there was a lot of challenges in that space, and they've settled on where they are at the moment. So that seems to be going okay so far, but yeah, this is the third iteration of them trying to get that channel dug. It is a very challenging space.
Councillor Sampson.
Just on page 72, number 37, given the impact, the current deficit and the impact of historical funding decisions, just can you enlighten me what those historical funding decisions were, please?
Yes, sure, through the chair. It's referring to previous decisions like sale and buyback of report, things like that, that we're sort of carrying along to servicing external loans to get through and ahead of that sort of stuff.
Buy and sell back
To Wholesome.
to Wholesome. News to me, I can't remember anything about that. Is there anybody that can enlighten us? I didn't. The port was always ours, and we did get a payout from the government some years ago to bring it up to speed on Pato Days Day. I do admit that I'm not au fait with everything on it, and probably lacking, but it's sort of all news that we sold and bought back.
Yeah, well, that's what I understand is there was a like $1.2 million sale and a buyback. It's a long time ago. So yeah, there's some debt we're carrying, and it's I understand it was that. I may stand corrected for sure.
Likewise.
I've only been here 2 years, so there's debt we're carrying, and we're trying to get ahead and get in front of that, and we're very much heading in the right direction as far as ports, self-sufficiency, reducing our expenses and increasing our income. I mean, that new pontoon we haven't even designed is already oversubscribed with users, so that's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously no point speculating. Just talk to Paul and we'll get back to you on that, because I don't have the answer, and obviously there's no point guessing. So we'll get back to it at a later date. Councillor Webb.
Just on paragraph 38, wondering why the Kawatiri is not on that list of the asset.
That's a good question.
we have kept this just as the port, so we're ring-fence port, Kawatiri is ring-fence Kawatiri.
Yeah.
Separate, they get conflated in this room all the time. In reality, that's not how it is.
Thank you. Councillor Reddy.
Chair, just questions at the moment.
Yes.
Questions,
Wrap it up shortly.
when we go to page, whatever it is, paragraph 29 anyway, draft actuals, 25-26, we've got salaries of 190,000, but no budget. And it's a major driver for the net operating deficit. Page 71, I think it is. Why do we not have a budget? And I've got a couple of other questions too. But why is there no budget for salaries, please, yet actuals?
Yes.
Sorry, there's an underspend on direct costs.
If I may then, thank you for that explanation. We've got para 30, activity for the dredge, activity deficit 131k negative. The major driver of that was the bell pump installation. But because we knew we were getting money, accrual accounting should actually cover that. Why then, Paul, why have we recorded the actual, but not the accrual accounting for the revenue coming in? Because we've got income at the top there. I'm assuming that's just revenue from operations, not through RIF, but I'm happy to be corrected.
No, the income of 778,000 includes 372,000 for the 12 days of dredging. The explanation for capital expenditure, it's actually a budget phasing issue. So the phasing of the budget split the bell pump costs and installation over 2 months, and we actually did all the costs and installation in July. So it's actually just incorrect budget phasing.
Sorry, I didn't turn that off. My apologies. But I agree on that. But what I'm hearing is that the 778 is for RIF for the work 12 days
Yes.
dredging. But I'm talking about the fact that Kanoa were paying 300,000 for the bell pump. Now, have they paid that 300,000 yet? Because what we're showing is a cost here of capex of 350 bell pump generally, and where's the revenue, either actual or accrued, to offset that 300,000?
So Kanoa hasn't paid anything as yet. We've only submitted the drawdowns this week for the bell pump installation, and the drawdowns for Kanoa is based on milestones. So the whole refunding is based on milestones, and we've submitted 157,000 for that bell pump installation in terms of refunding. That's only been done this week.
One more.
That's for, I've got it doesn't here, but that was for installation. I'm talking about the actual purchase.
Yes, no, it included the purchase as well.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. The other one is coming down to what Linda mentioned before about the paragraph 38. Total asset value of $7 million. Now, Paul, I'm hoping we'll be able to answer this. We don't record anything in this in here insurance value. We should on here have book value. Why are we overinflating the value of the assets by having insurance value and for the harbour workshop replacement value. I did replacement value accounting back in 1974 and it's never gone ahead. So why are we recording this on here now? Land value, correct. That is the land value that should be in the general ledger. Why are we recording for myself as a dummy and capital value, replacement value and insurance value? Why are these recorded when in actual fact it should be book value?
Through the chair, yes, you're correct, and it should be recorded at book value. So I guess the whole point of the exercise was that although there's a deficit in the harbour account, we're saying we've got assets which exceed that deficit. But like the dredge, we've had that recently revalued. It's now sitting at 2.850 million. So that would, if it had to be potentially disposed of, and we were fortunate enough to get something close to the insurance value, that would cover the outstanding debt. So I believe this exercise as set out in paragraph 38 was to sort of give some credence to that point.
Right, what I'm going to do is put the motion to the floor. I'm sorry, I'm going to move the motion that the Port and Dredge Operations Report August 2025 dated 17th September be received. Do I have a seconder for that? We can carry on the discussion. Councillor Grafton. So there's already been some good discussion. Is there any more good discussion points that people wish to raise? Councillor Reddy.
Thank you. This is discussion time now. Health and safety. Okay. I've raised it before regarding the old crane on the vessel. The old crane was removed because the Kawatiri dredge master felt it was a health and safety risk. That's all very well and done, but unfortunately or fortunately, the dredge and the port operation, although they're very succinct in terms of their operation, they are not a separate company anymore. They fall under the umbrella of BDC, and therefore this table here. Health and safety is, of course, the ultimate finger is going to be pointed to this table if there is any health and safety issues. I've never seen anything in a health and safety report in the 3 years I've been here to indicate that there are any issues with the dredge. So here we've got we've replaced the crane. Now, of course, we are aware that since the crane's been installed, there's been other issues. We can't use, by the sound of it, we can't use the grab bucket for whatever reasons. For whatever reason. So I'm more concerned now about health and safety to do with the port and dredge, and why is that? If it's not included in here, why is it not included in other reports that we received?
So I take it what you asked, what you were saying is that in the report, the new report form that we have, you would like to see an area around health and safety.
Yes.
Specific to the port and the dredge. Yes.
Well, I'm just asking why it has been why it's been ignored over the last 3 years. That's all.
Dominic, do you have a comment on that?
Happy to. Yeah, health and safety is a topic. I can't speak for what happened before. And you know, if there was a health and safety issue, we would certainly put in here. It's the right forum for putting there, but I can have it as a standalone item, or it could be added to a wider health and safety reporting for. I mean, as you say, it's a BDC asset, so maybe I link up with that report writer and do port, and whoever's doing dredge can do dredge. And good idea.
Yeah, makes sense. Are there any other discussion points? Too late. Right, I'm going to put that motion to the floor. All those in favour of that the the report be received. All those against? So that motion is passed. Thank you for that discussion, and thank you, Dominic, for the work you're doing, and probably the increased work you're going to be doing. Okay, we'll move on to agenda item number 9. Once we get to it. Agenda item number 9, which is a strategic risk management report, and that was prepared by Paul Newman. So, Paul, thank you for doing this report. This is a new report. Thank you for getting this underway. And would you like to speak to the report?
And thank you, and through the chair, yes, I'm pleased to report that the work around the strategic risk register is proceeding very well. We've taken on feedback from councillors at the June meeting, and you'll see there in section 8, we've given you a little bit more information on changes to the residual risk score since we last reported. So we've outlined the respective changes there. And on top of that, we've also, as part of our monthly review, we've added half a dozen or so, 7 new risks. So yeah, and other than that, I'll just open this up to any questions you may have.
Councillor Howard, you had some questions earlier on.
Thank you. I'd circulated to fellow councillors some items that I thought was worth discussing at the meeting. Just excuse me while I just find them. One was, well, the first one was around the 3 waters, and it's listed as our most strategic risk at the moment. And I just queried that because I would have thought above flooding of town or something like that, that's a bit more catastrophic. And so when I reflected on how it's measured, I'm just wondering if we've got the impact right. And I was wondering if the impact should be lowered, which bring over the overall. Because after all, if something happened and the 3 waters doesn't go ahead, the community would still have water. You know, it's not going to be a shuttle service, whereas some of the other risks would be quite catastrophic to our ratepayers. So I'd just like a discussion around whether we think we've got that rated correctly.
Through the chair, I think that looking at some of these, they have sort of been overtaken by events. Obviously, with the 3 waters work, now we've adopted our water service delivery plan on time to the government. This risk will now change quite substantially, and we will relook at that. But I think it's worth pointing out that you have an inherent risk, and then those controls will then generate your residual risk. Your residual risk is sitting at significant. But noting your comments, councillor, I think, yeah, there's a couple here that we would probably look at again, given the situation has moved on for a couple of them. And the other one was around number 19, which is around on page 1 to 9, which is around willingness and capacity of candidates standing for council, for example. So some of these, this is a living document, so we'll obviously chop and change those around as we go, and we'll bring that back through a risk and audit with perhaps new risks.
I thought this is our opportunity as a RAC to maybe make some suggestions as councillors to this, because I believe it's a document that councillors actually own at this level. So I'd like to make a suggestion that number 19, that be removed from the risk register. Maybe in 3 years' time we need to put it back on again, but we've received enough candidates for the election, so that's no longer, to me, I think, a risk. I'd like to suggest on number 2 that the impact should be 4 within the overall significant rating. I've got a couple of other ones here too. Do you want me to go through them all? Or do you want to discuss them one at a time?
You can go through them all now.
Okay. The other one I had was page 126, number 10, the reliance on rates income. The commentary on it all seems to be around the port and the dredge, but I'm just wondering about that. Should it be listing or commenting on the other things that we're doing? Like we now have housing that's generating income, doorstep rates, and advocacy for royalties, and a property rationalisation, which the risk isn't around the port, the risk is around reliance on rates income. So I'd like to request that be broadened. There's just a spelling mistake in number 8. It should be, I'm sure it should be contacted and not contracted. And on number 20, the economic, business and industry activity in the district, we don't specifically mention tourism. And I think some of the things we could mention is having representation on the district management steering group or collaboration with BOLA, promoting BOLA, and that was supporting like the implement centres and museums. So I think we could perhaps just recognising the tourism is still a major contributor in the economic field, and we are doing some positive things there. And I wonder, you've added in number 28. I'm just wondering, is this risk on the right table? Isn't this a bit more operational? And I'm just wondering, isn't this more about control of confidential information generally, or is council got adequate oversight on policies, procedures? I just think when you take it down to a single incident, is this what we're really looking at the strategic level of risk? Surely if it's an incident, it should be through like a CEO report or an email to councillors. And I've got one final comment, sorry, a lot of this, that I wonder we should be adding in about what would be the risk of not having an air service to Westport, whether that should be added to the risk register.
And they're all good points. And I know you've emailed those points through already, haven't you? And Paul, you'd pass them on, didn't you?
Yeah, and through the chair, and thank you, Councillor Howard. Yeah, those are really good comments. Great to get the feedback, and they've been shared with the rest of the senior leadership team and others that were working on the risk register, and we'll review that as part of our monthly process and take those factors into consideration.
That was my question. Shouldn't we be deciding that though? Because we own the risk register, sure, staff input, but shouldn't we be giving some steerage now with, I don't know if the table agrees with me or not on those points, maybe they have a different opinion.
I was just going to suggest, Mr. Chair, that we wrap that into a resolution. Essentially wrap Joe's feedback into a resolution and then just get the endorsement of the table, and then it's documented as something for the team to take through, just so that it isn't lost.
Yep, okay. Councillor Pellet.
Can we just clarify then that number 2, Joe, what was your suggestion around that? The Three Waters reform?
Mama, it's coming out as one of the most significant issues that the council face, and I didn't think it really was, and I thought, well, what is there anything wrong with the way we've valued it? And I thought we'd actually put the impact as too high, yeah, which would bring over, and this is without the controls being put in place. But I just don't believe it's a catastrophic to the district of whatever happens with Three Waters, because we're still going to have a water service.
Because the way we calculated that was to use that guide.
Yes.
So what does that sink back to in that guide? Because didn't we relate it to the amount of money that it would cost or the reputational damage? There was some. It's not included in this agenda, so we can't refer to it straight away, but 5 meant, that specific impact on the community. I just wonder if that's why it came back as a 5.
I just thought there'd be more that pushes higher than what that particular thing was, but that's other people might not agree.
Well, the rest of you have heard Joe's and also received them as well. Are there any comments related to what Joe said, or are you happy for them to be moved, be actioned, and updated in the risk register? Councillor Grafton.
I just see the 13, the IT systems one. I know we talked in the past about Brome House and that, and if anything did happen to Brome House and you're unable to retrieve,
Does that have any effect on this? Like the new score is only seems to be a 3, but would that have any effect on that? Being able to secure after an earthquake or anything like that, if Brome House wasn't unable to be entered? Or is it not coming into this?
Through the chair, I think this one is really trying to hone in on security as opposed to access, physical access after an event. I think what you're talking about, Councillor, is a separate risk. So this one is really honing in on, do we have the right firewalls in place, virus, training, all of those good things. IT disaster recovery, so that's why that one is now at a low, given the work that's been done around the IT disaster recovery plan, BCP work. Yeah, so it's about virtual security as opposed to access physically after an event.
Given that's on, it's majority is online, that access should not be an issue. Wouldn't that be right?
In theory, yes.
Except the new risk around paper documentation that is still there.
Just to suggest the way forward is, can we perhaps suggest the minute secretary review the video for this bit and do full minutes for the feedback bullet points? The table's heard it and we resolved that they just be included in the minutes. And then, you know, you'll have a bullet point if it's like half a dozen points. It'll come back in the minutes next month anyway. And that documents councillors' input. Is that doable unless you kept 4 minutes as you go?
Yeah, we can re-listen and actually get a word for it. Just note that the minutes won't come back to the next meeting. They will be distributed to the committee and be signed by the chair as it's the last meeting of the training.
Okay.
But all the whole committee will see the minutes before that.
So I think that makes it even more important that we capture Councillor Howard's feedback in writing. And I think the safest way to do that is that it's included in the minutes, if not verbatim, you know.
It has also been shared by email.
And then the next council can pick up on it and make sure it's followed through as appropriately. Obviously, staff can recommend once they've put that through the process, what changes are appropriate and report back to the next RAC.
Okay.
Or next time it's looked at.
Okay, if you're all comfortable with that, I'm going to move that the strategic risk management report to September 25, dated 17th September 25, be received and subject to the changes and recommendations. Oh, you have a question? Okay, we'll do that before. Councillor Reddy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just in terms of the paragraph 6 on this agenda item. It's a living document. Council's strategic risks are reviewed monthly by the senior leadership team. Early on in the piece, when we appointed a independent chair, we were told there's a difference between operational risk and strategic risk. The question I've got is what is the purpose of paragraph 6? Joe has gone through this very, very well, and I've got to thank her for that. R&C equals risk and audit, sorry, R&A, risk and audit committee. So we're talking risk now. This hasn't got anything to do with staff. This has got to operations. As I said before, there's operations and strategic. So I'm asking the question, what is the relevance of paragraph 6, given that staff apparently are looking at these, senior leadership team are reviewing these. We should be reviewing these here ourselves. It's exactly what Joe has done. And I'm very happy about that. But anyway, the question is, what is the purpose of paragraph 6? It's not SLT, it is governance.
Through the chair. My understanding of the risk register is that you need to assign a risk owner to these risks. There's an inherent risk, which is a gross risk, and then once the controls are put in place to mitigate the risk, you have a residual risk. The idea is the risk register needs to be a living document. There needs to be a risk owner assigned to each of these risks, and they need to mitigate and manage these risks down to an acceptable level. And then we as council officers come back to councillors and we report on that. And that's my understanding of the process. And we very much value your input and your feedback, and we'll absolutely take that on board. I see our role as owning those risks and looking to give you some sense of comfort that we're taking those risks seriously and we're managing those risks.
Okay. And I think too, the A is audit, and one of our jobs is to audit the strategic risk areas of the council, which is what we're doing now. We're doing the audit of those risks. Are there any other questions? Okay, so I am going to put that motion on the floor then, if that's the case. That the risk management report to September 2025, that's 17th September 25 we received. Do I have a seconder for that report? Councillor Grafton. Any more discussion relating to the risk register? No, and all those in favour? Carried. Yeah. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to agenda item number 10, please. So this is the Westport Airport Authority draft full year report to the 30th of June 2025. This was prepared by Glenn Pellow. Glenn, have you got any comments that you want to make on the report?
No comments on the report. I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you. Councillors, any questions of Glenn or the report? Councillor Webb.
Just wondering, I understand that these need to be adopted by the end of the month. Is that going to happen, or we've obviously got the draft here?
That's not going to happen yet. The audit is only going to commence probably at the end of October. So that won't be it. It won't be done by the end of the month.
Councillor Reddy. Okay. Councillor Sampson.
The farm leasing fees, they seem to have gone down by about $1,400. Is there some reason for that? Instead of increasing, they've gone down.
I will have to get back to you on that. Sorry.
Any other questions of Glenn? Councillor Fowler.
Just sort of a general question, and I think I know the answer, but is there anything governance can do to get assurance that a report will be adopted by the time it needs to be, or the audit will be approved at the time it needs to be? Because I'm under the impression that there's not much governance can do and it sits with council. Is that correct? Because I mean, we all want the report to be adopted by the end of the month. We know that's not going to happen. What levers do we have left to pull?
I would like that to happen as well. It's just timing of audits and that kind of thing at the moment. So our audit's only arriving at the end of October. So
yeah,
that's beyond my control as well.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I just wanted to ask the question because some people think that the audit not being approved is governance fault, but it's kind of just the way it is, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Councillor Reddy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No, it's not. I'm sorry to say, it's not the way it is. the airport last year for year in 24 was not adopted on time. We've got the audits that have not been adopted on time, and unfortunately, are we doing?
Is this a question still?
Sorry, no, we doing this question.
Yes, still questions.
Oh, apologies. No,
You're on
I've got it wrong again.
Okay. What I'll do is I'll put the motion, then you can have your say, right? So, there's a preview. So I'm going to move that the Westport Airport Authority draft full report to 30th June 2025 be received. Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Fallon, Councillor Reddy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for your patience. It's not the way it is. Risk and Audit Committee, which is what we're doing now, R for risk, A for audit. Well, that's not in the work plan. The Auditor General has made it quite clear that this particular committee is responsible for ensuring that the annual reports and all other reports are done and dusted by the due time. This is a statutory responsibility. Yet we missed it last year. We've still got the as we know, 3 now annual reports. It seems to be now an ongoing situation. Nothing against you, Glenn. I know what you're up against through the chair, sorry, but it just seems to be ongoing. The responsibility sits here, not with Bram Street. It sits here, and if there are issues, Mr. Chair, then they should be addressed around here to make sure what is going on. And unfortunately, we're not doing that. And that is why we have a legacy of overdue annual reports, unaudited, and what have you. So I think that should be noted, left on the table, and especially for the new people coming in, newly elected next year, next term, they need to understand what the whole objective of the Risk and Audit Committee is.
Yeah, just in terms of certainly the earlier annual report, there is nothing more that we can do, I believe. So that is sitting with the auditors right now. And I agree with you, deadlines are deadlines, and we should be making sure that we meet deadlines. I only wish that auditors would meet deadlines as well, which they don't. They're not in general. But I think you're right. There are deadlines that counts that are legally binding, but it doesn't seem to be that we're meeting those on a regular basis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for this opportunity. To suggest that it's lying with the auditors know what they have to do. Okay, so it's all about having your work plan. You've got your accounts done by a certain time, so the auditors then come and do it. Now, if you go beyond that, they've got other timetables as well. So as we know, we're sitting in the queue, and if you don't meet that time, you get pushed back to the bottom of the queue. So once again, I'm sorry to say, we're not waiting on the auditors. It's once again here around the table, we have not actioned it, and we should be taking responsibility for it. I'm sorry to say, we're not.
Councillor Fallon.
So that's exactly my question, is what, as governance, can we do to take responsibility to resolve that issue? Because we all want the audits to be met, and we all want to meet the deadlines. What can you and I, sitting around this table today, actively do to make sure we can achieve that? Because if there's something we can do, we all want to do it. Do we need to not burden our team with other tasks? Do we need to open up more availability? Do we need a consultant to help pass audit? Is that something we actually have to do and we need to action to enable this to be completed and to move on? So that's my question.
That was a good discussion point.
Can we do something about it, or are we a bit hand-tied as to wait for the auditors?
Councillor Howard, you had your hand up as well.
I was a bit like that too. It's all very well to have accusations and to blame people, but have we got a pathway? And I've our staff to blow or anything. I haven't heard so. I've heard that the information's ready. We certainly have the information presented to RAC. That surely is the foundation for the audit material. So, yeah, I guess what I'd like to understand is there ability to do anything more than what we're doing?
Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I mean, I agree the buck stops with council and RAC. And that's why when we were getting hold-ups and things, you know, I reached out to the Auditor General and we arranged a meeting, and the Auditor General attended that meeting with our auditors and our finance team, and everyone understood the way forward. And I don't know what more we could have done because it then sits with the respective teams to swap the information they need to, and the auditors to come back when they're happy. Until the auditors are happy, you don't get an audit. And I'm not sure, other than more resource to the finance team or something like that, I'm not sure what other interventions governance can do other than being satisfied that we've been open and transparent with the Auditor General, and he understands what the hold up was and the pathway forward that included EY. I'm confident that when they're ready and they're comfortable, they'll report back.
Councillor Weston.
Through the chair, yeah, I see in bullet point 11 and 12, which says Ernst & Young have actually charged audit fees for 20,666, and then it says in bullet point 12, this time frame is not met because the 2024 audit has not commenced. So, I mean, how do you work against that?
Sorry, Grant, there's an accrual for us at the moment, so it's just a provision for, or an accrual for that audit fee for them to commence and do the work. They haven't started, no.
Councillor Reddy, lucky last.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. The question was asked around the table, where do we go, how do we go forward? Okay, so what we have in, oh my dear God, I meant to do that, sorry. What we have is agenda item 5. And what it is the Risk and Audit Committee program for 2025. It's got all these items recorded down here. But down the bottom it's got here, the following items are not directly related to the Risk and Audit work program, but are provided to note where we're at. And those are annual report and so on and so forth. I've voted every meeting we've had these. I've said I haven't accepted it because the way forward is that we are responsible and we should be having agenda items. We should be discussing where the status of these around audit time, what the status is. That is a Risk and Audit Committee responsibility, but we aren't doing it. So in answer to the question, what we need going forward is an update as to where we're, not this, we want an audit, we want an agenda item specific to as we're coming up for you know, the audits and what have you. Bringing in more staff, my God, we've got a full complement now. Now, just let me, I don't mean to sort of carry on. I've been an accountant, had to do day-to-day work, had to do annual reports, had to do budgets, okay? We don't get time off, we don't bring in people to do it. We put the hours in and then do whatever we have to do. Now, I know we've become a PC world these days. That's fine. Work 8 till 5. So be it. We don't need more staff. It's about working smarter, not harder. And I'm afraid to say, going forward, what we need is agenda items explaining where we're at a point in time with these specific legislative or statutory responsibilities. We're not getting that at the moment. And this is a suggestion for a way forward.
Thank you. I mean, I do believe at the last RAC meeting we did have an update on all 3 audit reports, and which is why we changed the work plan for the 22-23 to December this year. That was an agreement that we made at that meeting. So we did have that update, and yeah, and I'm sure they are working damn hard because, like you, I'm sure they're very frustrated that we don't have these audit reports done. It's not just a frustration at this table. I'm sure it's a frustration at every table in the council. But I mean, we can only go as fast as they are willing to go now, it seems. But hopefully we do have that we have a deadline of December, I believe, for the 2023. It seems to be, that seems to be on track. Anyway, I'm going to move this one. We're going to vote on the Airport Authority draft full year report from June 2025. Been moved and seconded. All those in favour of receiving that report? Unanimous. Thank you. Good, robust discussion. The next report is agenda item number 7. It's the investment and borrowing report as at 31st of December. Agenda item number 11. Yeah. And this was prepared by Glenn Pellow. Again, you've read the report. Glenn, is there anything you wish to add to the report before we receive questions?
Nothing I wish to add to the report. Happy to take your questions.
Thank you. So you've all read the report, no doubt. Are there any questions? It's a format that we've seen before. Councillor Sampson.
Page 148, our term deposits. I see we've got 3 term deposits, 2 with ANZ and 1 BNZ. We've always had one with the Nelson Savings Bank, Nelson Building Society. Have we not got that any longer? Because I thought that's what our sponsorship for the theatre hinged on.
Through the chair, that's a good question. We had an agreement that expired in May 2025, and it wasn't tied to the sponsorship for the use of the name over the building that we own is a separate matter. We had the option if we wanted to invest money with the Nelson Building Society. Come May 2025, we withdrew the money, the funds, and utilised it elsewhere in the organisation. So it wasn't tied to that agreement that we had with the Nelson Building Society. Although we're talking to them again about renewing the naming rights and getting some revenue out of that.
Okay, to carry on from there, it concerns me because our investments have gone down by 11 million over the 12 months. I did ask for a breakdown of that 11 million some months back, and I got it for 9.5 million. Never got for the full 11 million. So I would like that breakdown just where 11 million has been spent on capital. And then the other really thing that's sort of bugging me, and you might be able to help, it was imperative that at our long-term plan, we adopted to go with the local government funding agency because we were going to get a better rate. And we were going to do that at the 30th of June. That's why we had to do it then. And we were going to be saving $80,000 for the rest of this year. Well, here on the 31st of August, we still have a loan facility of $17 million with Westpac. And again, a question I have asked previously about not having our audits was that surely the bank is waiting for them. No. The bank wasn't worried about it. And surely LGFA would want us to have our audits completed. No, they're going to give it to us and they're not worried about it. Yet in this report, it's saying both those organisations are awaiting for our report, our annual reports. So, you know, there's about 3 things all rolled up in there. One, why have we got the Westpac account still when we were going to save so much money by transferring it immediately? Where has the $11 million gone? And the third one was whatever I just said last. So if you're paying attention, you can tell me.
Through the chair, thank you for those questions, and I'll start the process off with the LGFA. Unfortunately, we couldn't do it at exactly the 30th of June. We had to wait until we'd adopted the long-term plan, but there's a paper coming to next week's council meeting, moving us, subject to council signing it off, moving us to become a guarantor. So we're moving as quickly as we can on that. And we had to obviously work through lawyers and follow the correct process, but that paper will be coming next week to council. The second question was what the $11 million, I might pass that over to you, Glenn, please.
Look, it is a combination of capital infrastructure and that type of thing, and we have used a portion of it to actually reduce our exposure at Westpac.
Yeah, I was assured, just going on the Westpac one, that we wouldn't have any penalty, and that $80,000 we spent on the day because we put that money into the infrastructure of Anangahua and Setonville reserves. So we spent money that we haven't got now.
Through the chair, you'll still get the savings. It's just a timing matter. We've moved as quickly as we could to get the LGFA becoming a guarantor into place. That'll happen hopefully next week when council adopts and we become a guarantor, and then we will then change the debt arrangements with. We've already signalled that to Westpac. They know what we're doing and they're happy with that. We will continue with a Westpac loan facility, but it'll be a much reduced amount because we'll have all our borrowing through LGFA.
Through the chair, it still disturbs me that we were assured it could be done. This is 3 months later, 3 months of interest savings that we are not making, and that 3 months of savings we have already spent. And this is governance that we're meant to say, this is what we're sitting here for. And we keep hearing excuses. Well, the decision was made because we were assured that we knew you had lawyers, you knew you had everything else, but you could get off the mark and you had time to do it. You had a month to do it because it was at the end of May that we were doing that. Well, 3 weeks to do it anyway. Yeah.
Through the chair, thank you for those comments. I'm familiar with the process behind the scenes. It's not as quickly as we'd like it to be. There's a legal process to go through. We're working through respective lawyers, both for the LGFA and for council. It takes time for these processes to happen. We've moved as quickly as we can, and as I said, the paper will be coming next week to the council to consider.
Well, through the chair again, we should never have been told that that could happen when you were aware of that process.
Councillor Howard.
My recall was that we only budgeted for a partial year in the amount of funding that we were going to save. So given the financial year, July to July, and I thought we took it it's roughly 9 months from memory. So that would possibly align pretty much with what's happened.
Councillor Reid.
Question time.
Yes.
Thanks for the discussion beforehand. Paragraph 15, borrowing a net debt position. Last sentence. Result of BDC reducing their call account loan by 3.4 million and by using excess funds generated from rates and grants. Well, grants, of course, we have to pay back if we have excess, but what concerns me is the use of the word excess funds generated from rates. Am I hearing that we have overrated and therefore have rates that we're using for other areas apart from what was originally intended? That's my question.
Sorry, I don't know, maybe terminology, but just funds that we had available to us, not necessarily from rates, but excess or funds available to us.
Whittington. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? No? Okay. Would someone like to put the recommendation that the investments and borrowing report as at 31st of August 2025, dated 7th of September 25 be received. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Weston, seconder. Councillor Howard. Is there any further discussion? Councillor Reddy? No? Yes? No? Yes?
Just going around, I'm thanking Mr. Chair, just going around, making sure I don't deprive others. What this is telling me, and I will support it, but what this report is telling me is that this BDC, this council, is broke. Now, I accept, and I've been speaking to people in the community where we need to undertake infrastructure work that's going to cost money. No one's arguing about that. What the question, it's not so much having undertaken the work, it is the ingredients in that budget, the makeup of that budget, which is of concern. And as far as I'm concerned, a lot of those budgets have got leakage. That's where if we're looking at, say, $14 million of infrastructure projects, for example, you can guarantee there's about $1 million to $1.5 million for consultants, project management, and contingencies. So that's a lot of money. So, and I'm just giving you an estimate here, it could even be more. The point I'm making here is that no one's arguing about undertaking the projects, but why are we hemorrhaging so much money? Because we've gone down from 13 million, I think it was, for the, what's again, I'm wrong, 11 million, June 24, and now we're down to 3 million, August 25. And the unsettling thing for me is that when we look at the amount that says there for as at June, if I can just point it out, term deposits last month, year end, we've got 3 million, it's saying there, June 2025. I've since had a call from a member of the public, and they're saying to me, hang on, how come you're saying at June 25 there's 3 million, but in the long-term plan, which was adopted, that says investments, council currently has term deposits investments of 11.5 million. We adopted that paper, and yet here it's saying that we've only got 3.5 million, and I've misled through my, or I didn't adopt the LTP, but the public's been misled. So why we're broke? We haven't put a full stop anywhere and just taken a seat back. I do feel for the new people coming in, but thankfully we might have some insight into this, and it's going to be an ongoing process, I'm afraid to say. But I accept, as I say, the infrastructure, and I was arguing that it's the hemorrhaging that's of concern.
Thank you, Mr. Eddy. Councillor
Can I
Howard.
just write a point there? You're quoting adopting our long-term plan, so you're actually looking at the 1st of July, and here we've got a report looking at our investments as of 31st of August, so you're not comparing one figure directly with another that we passed at the end of as part of our long-term plan. So I just think publicly you're perhaps misrepresenting.
If you look at this particular item, it says 31 August, 31 July, and 30 June. I specifically mentioned the word 30 June, and it says $3.3 million. I'm not going to have a council tell me that I'm possibly misrepresenting the situation. The facts are there, the facts are in the LTP, and I believe that I'm going to ask for an apology on that. Thank you.
Sorry, I was looking at number 10, the figures that I've got there, which only give the 31st of August. So I'm sorry if you're referencing another. Could you point out the chart that you're referencing?
12. That's what I've seen.
Okay, I'll apologise then.
Councillor Sampson, did you have anything to add? No?
No, really,
Okay.
just that I feel quite uncomfortable that our investments are down to 3.3. It's just, it's peanuts compared with what we've got out in loans, and I'm most uncomfortable.
Okay, noted. Okay, I'm going to put this to the floor, that the investments and borrowings report be received. All those in favour? All those against? No? One against. Okay, Councillor Sampson. Okay, let's move on to the debt management report. Again, another one prepared by Glenn. You're a lucky man.
Indeed. Thank
Yes.
you. No further comments. Open to questions.
There's a lot of money tied up in arrears. Are there any comments related to that report? Again, it's a report we've seen before. Obviously, I would imagine it's a concern to everyone that there is that much in arrears. It's quite a significant amount. And I'm sure the council staff are working hard to find methods to get recovery out of that extreme amount. Councillor Grafton.
I suppose just one on the sundry. Is there any large outstanding single ones in that? Seems to be a huge amount.
It's just basically timing stuff from some of the ministries, but we will get that money. It shouldn't be a problem. Just a couple of months here or there.
Okay. Yep. Okay. Since there's a bit of so Councillor Webb. Okay. So Councillor Webb's going to move. Going to get the wording. That the debt management report as at the 31st of July 2025 be received. I have a seconder for that. Councillor Fella, any further discussion? Hallelujah. All those in favour? Passed unanimously. Thank you, Glenn. You can have a break. Okay, the next item on the agenda is agenda item number 13, which is the multi-year projects funding report. And that was prepared by Sonia Furby. And Paul, I presume you're going to take over?
Yes, through the chair, Sonia can't be here at the moment. So she's asked me if need be to talk to this report. So happy to open up to any discussion that council may have about this. Basically carry forwards from 24 to 25 to future years as set out in the draft recommendation and the attached appendix. That's been worked through the rest of council, mainly in the infrastructure services team, who have confirmed these amounts being correct.
Councillor Grafton.
So I suppose just a question on that carry forward of 5 million. What percentage would that be of the capital expenditure for that year? Do we know? You know, we're going to get better at that.
You mean reducing the amount of carryovers?
The percentage of carry over year. We've talked about it getting it up to what, 80 or something, but is this carry over? Is that down around 60 or work done?
Through the chair, I'd need to check that. All I can the comment that I can make is that it's the unspent portion of prior year budget, but what the total budget is, I just probably need to follow up and come back to you on that.
Councillor Reddy?
Sorry, I was out of the room before, Mr. Chair, we're talking 13.
Yes.
First up, I'd just like to apologise for butting them before without waiting for you to say that I could speak. So my apologies for that. And it's sincere. I've discussed with Paul and Sahana just about some reporting issues there, but I'm not happy that Sahana's done the reconciliation, and hopefully we'll get something out later on. Could I just through the chair, would that be correct to say that, Paul? Because what we'll be adopting at the moment isn't necessarily 100% correct, but we're talking the out years, which of course is another subject matter. So I will be supporting the paper, but with reservations.
Thank you, Councillor Reddy. Are there other questions regarding? Yeah, I know. Because you said sorry.
Just through the chair, the figures are correct. That's the first point I'd like to make. So we're moving the carryover budget of, and these are the figures that it needs to be moved to as set out in the recommendation. I believe the question that the councillors probably correctly raised was normally you come towards the end of the year and you carry forward for 12 months, then you come back a little bit later in the year for that, when you give a bit of an update, a status update on where the projects are at, then you carry forward. So yeah, I think Colin and I are on the same page there around the reporting. From where I sit, the figures are okay, correct.
One. Okay, there's only one. So the draft recommendation is that Risk and Audit Committee recommends to Council that the carryover budget of $5,063,874 from the 24-25 year be added to future capitals budget as follows, and moving to 25-26, $4,923,874, and from 26-27 and 27-28, 70,000 per year. That's been moved by Councillor Reddy and it's been seconded by Councillor O'Keefe. Is there any further discussion before we put that to the floor? No? Okay. All those in favour of that motion? Carried unanimously. Better picked up. Okay, we're up to lucky number 14, which is a PMO review. Summary of actions taken in response to the KPMG Project Management Office review. I'll ask and see Mr. Simon Pickford to speak to this report, which is quite an extensive report. Thank you for doing that.
Thank you, Chair. I just thought it was an appropriate point, given we now have reached the milestone of a confirmation from NZTA long awaited for the amount for repayment. So what I've tried to do here is provide you with an end of triennium summary and just note the journey that we've been collectively on since the KPMG review report landed in April, May last year. I just reflected that any major failure results from multiple factors, and it's easy to focus on individuals who were here at the time. But I think more importantly, it's about the systemic process, policy and procedural failures that allowed this situation to occur. People come and go, but fit for purpose controls endure and ensure that that failure is very unlikely to reoccur. So the positive that I think we can take from the review undertaken by KPMG was the 19-point action plan that was generated and endorsed by this committee. And I think acknowledgement of the work that's been done, particularly in that procurement and financial control area, there's been a transformation from where we were. We're very different now. The works that's been undertaken has helped rebuild that trust and confidence in central government, in our funding partners, and this has been acknowledged. Comment was made to me this week by my contact at NZTA, who remarked that BDC is now one of the highest performing councils from where we were. That's a significant transformation. NZTA have been great to work with. They haven't wanted to be punitive against Buller, and they've treated us fairly and recognized our limited resources. I just want to acknowledge the hard work of the staff and the oversight of this committee that's helped us to get to this point. And we shouldn't underestimate that. It's been a significant journey. This isn't intended to be a full stop. This isn't drawing a line under the work that's saying there's no more work to do. This is, for me, more of an end of a chapter. Work will be ongoing, and there's plenty more work to do, which we'll be reporting through to this committee. On that note, I'm happy to take any questions that they have.
On a silly question again. Where does that money come from? Like, have we rated for it? Do we need to rate for it? When are we going to get that money?
Anthony, do you want to talk to the 255?
The 255,
Sorry, just having a distracted moment on my laptop when you asked that question. The 255 is going to be recovered by delaying or some of the reseal rehab works on the roads over the next 2 years. So the 2-year period to repay that money back to NZTA. One of the reasons, or a couple of the reasons why we can delay some of those reseal works. One of the good reasons for that was the budget we assigned for the reseal tender was higher than the actual cost. So there's some budgetary savings in there. And the reason that budget still sits was because of the timing of NZTA's approval is after the plans and things like that, council plans were approved. So there was an imbalance in there. And the with agreement, and one of the other reasons why the NZTA person's here next week is to agree the changes that we might make with our reseal program. So there is the ability to push some of that out into a further triennium. Sorry, NZTA call their funding thing a triennium as well, slightly different, but into the further triennium without any significant impact on asset quality or the cost of that reseal. The reseal will cost the same regardless.
So does that mean, in that speak, does that mean no impact on rates?
Correct.
No. Thank you. Councillor Howard.
Just to clarify though, because we actually are subsidising that work, so it's more than actually working out $250,000 worth of work. It's actually the equivalent of our 75% subsidy, isn't it? So we're actually foregoing a higher amount of work.
Correct.
Yeah. Councillor O'Keefe.
Sorry, just to confirm, when is the meeting date you're having next with NZTA?
Tuesday next week.
So the 25th. Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Yes, Councillor Reddy.
Question time at the moment. Yeah, just paragraph 42, and its correspondence on this issue, attachment 2. NZTA recorded there has been a noticeable improvement in the systems and processes to support embedding, and et cetera, et cetera. I don't see that in here. I've read it about 10 times, and at the bottom it says it acknowledges the efforts that we've done. And unfortunately, it was their audit and assurance person who's signed off on this. And I just think it's a little, how can I put it? I'm just asking, where is that comment in 42 on this letter? Please.
So the commentary that we've had from Vanessa, delegate, has been, as I've narrated in the report, they have been very complimentary to the council in its efforts and recognising the change that they have seen. And as I mentioned, this is not just we have got back to a good place, but we're actually in a place which is an exemplar for the rest of New Zealand in terms of how we are operating, in terms of how we're providing information, how well we're working with NZTA. And I think that's something to celebrate.
Are there any other questions relating to this report? So it is quite an extensive report. So thank you, Simon, for taking time to get that done. And thank you for the work you and your team have done in attending to the KPMG report over the last 3 years. Councillor Phillip.
Just a similar question to what I had before. So if we have, we're requesting a further $762, which is not being supported, how will we pay for that? Because NZTA is effectively saying they don't support the adjustment, but we've spent the money. So where do we get that from?
I believe we spoke about it before.
They were talking about the $254, 254,000 we do have to pay back.
No, we also talked about the other 702,000, which they will report back on once that meeting has been held. We mentioned that, yeah, we mentioned that quite a bit a while ago.
Oh, right. But if they're not going to pay it at all, where do we get that money? That's the
If they don't pay it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Obviously, we've got to find it. I think it's a question after we know what we do. Yeah. Ask the question once they know the answer. I think that was probably the easy way. And that meeting is next Thursday. It makes sense
for me to have like some sort of mechanism or idea of how we would cover $750,000 that we don't have. That's fine.
No, there are only a couple of mechanisms we do have to for money, obviously. But I think my understanding is of from the letter is that there is some debate about the discussion around that 702,000 because of a comment they made in that letter around not seeking repayment.
I think one of the things in the letter that makes it a little bit harder to understand is the request for a price level adjustment was a suggestion that was made. It's a formal process that NZTA have for additional funds. They had originally suggested we follow that process, and they've confirmed they will not use that particular process for this set of works. So it's effectively saying no to the price level adjustment process, but it's not saying no to other processes. And that's the last part of that letter. That is the part that we need proper clarity on.
Is that okay? Yep. Councillor Reddy.
Question time. Can I then ask, following on from that, I understand there's a meeting on next
Thursday,
which is prior to the meeting, after the council meeting last night.
Councillor O'Keefe.
Are NZTA's all letters always as cryptic?
I would not like to answer that question for fear of incriminating myself.
I don't think for fear of labouring the point, but I think just to draw back, my understanding is no one is disputing that work was carried out. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I understand the work was carried out, but more work was carried out than what had originally been agreed. So it's not a case of sort of a mystery where the money went or anything like that. It's the money went in the ground somewhere on the Karamea Bluff. And I would imagine that if it turns out that it's not going to be funded by the agency, significant portion of it would be CapEx, which would be loan funded, if it had to be. Like all our other capital projects, but as you say, that they may well end up accepting some or all of that, because obviously it is an improvement to their asset.
Councillor Sampson.
My understanding was that a fair proportion was for double charging travel that was said wasn't eligible, and extra time that they'd clip the ticket twice, not just all work.
So through the chair, Councillor Sampson is correct in terms of some of that was stated in the audit. The 250K is the recovery of that sort of costs where the rates were too high or items that were not part of NZTA's agreed funding for the Program Management Office. So that's the 250K. The additional physical works, as Mayor Jamie has said, are works that were done, and post those works, NZTA have questioned things like it's the type of retaining walls that were designed and put in place. They have questioned whether they should have been effectively rock batters as opposed to gabion baskets, for example. There's some guardrails that some of the areas did not previously have guardrails and they do have now, so that's considered a betterment or a safety improvement. And there was one bridge where they debated whether or not new bridge abutments were needed or not, but the engineers at the time, including the design engineers, had recommended doing the works that were done. So as Mayor Jamie said, the physical works in that $700,000 have been done. You can go out, you can touch it, you can see it.
Thank you. If I could just respond. Yeah. So therefore, the increased cost was also an increased percentage to the consultants.
So there's I suppose in this context, there were the PMO consultants who had increased costs, which are being recovered through the 250, but they engaged professional engineers, the likes of Becker and DO and WSP and others to do designs for them. So they specified designs. And those designs would have been done whether you designed a gabion wall or a rock wall or whatever.
Councillor O'Keefe, get the frown off your face.
My understanding is that you can't really replace like for like, because most of the stuff's old. Infrastructure, engineering has changed, laws have changed, so you have to replace it to these standards now, which is perhaps a little slightly fundamental change, but in this day and age, there's new laws and regulations with engineering. You have to have a rail up where you didn't in the past, and la 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 la. So I can see how, really, at the end of the day, it's a fairly vague argument, really, isn't it? That's just my question.
Whatever. I'll get you speaking at the meeting on Thursday. Anyway, so look, I'm going to put the recommendation on the floor that the PMO review summary of actions taken in response to the KPMG Project Management Office review dated the 7th of September be received. I'm happy to move that. Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor O'Keefe. Any further discussion? Right, put that to the floor. All those in favour? Oh, geez, you've got to be faster than that. You're faster than on the internet.
Apologies, Mr. Chair, on that one. I was
Councillor,
waiting to see if anybody else wanted to pass any comment. Ever since this paper's been coming to RAC, I've supported it. I don't intend supporting it this time round. The reason being, there's a number of items that we've said we've clarified and we haven't. And one of the first ones, of course, we talked about how in there's something in there, there's a comment by the auditors about not taking notice of what appears in the paper. Now, I'm not expecting on the Tuesday, I'm not expecting everyone to drop pens and come to attention. But then on the Friday, we had another item that came forward and said, oh, I haven't heard back from BDC yet. So that to me indicates that, well, are we actually following, are we following what the PMO audit actually said? Do we take notice of these things when they hit the screen? I'm also aware of the fact that there was an invoice that was presented. I think it was to do with NZTA, I cannot remember now. And it was presented to a member of staff. The staff member said, it's okay, pay it. Staff member then had a panic attack, and I'm not sure if it was ever recorded in the health and safety report that we get, and then subsequently resigned. Now, when I hear stories like that, no, you won't know about it because it's a staffing issue. But when I hear issues, something like that, that says an invoice was presented to a staff member and they just said, pay it, this accountant knew exactly what was wrong with the invoice.
Point of order, I think here. I think we're making accusations against staff. Are you sort of problem about accusations without?
I mean, I think in this particular case that point of order should be upheld because you are making an accusation about a staff member, that an anonymous accusation about a staff member.
Can I
at this table?
Can I have an answer back on that? What I've got in this report though is that it says that we will follow what, you know, when these items are identified, we will follow these. What I'm saying is that it's in there, but in reality, it hasn't been followed. That's all I'm trying to say, and I gave an example. Okay, so that's okay. What about the internal audit?
And that was in the action list, I believe, that the internal audit.
I know, sorry, and here in terms of the action plan and how we've undertaken internal audits. Now, the internal audit, of course, has come up. I believe there's some issues around that area, but once again, I believe I passed the comment last month. It said complete. When I looked at it again today, it still says complete. And so we've got internal audits that we're coming out of our ears for the next 6 months. So just little things like that. I'm not, as I say, I'm not supporting this time round because of the. I don't believe what's written in ink is actually what is actually happening. And the prime example, as I said before, is that.
Thank you. Are there any other discussion points before we put this to the floor? No. So it's been moved and seconded. So all those in favour of that motion? All those against? That motion has passed. Now I'm aware that we are over 2 hours, but there's one more item before we move into in committee, and I wonder if we could do that so the people that are watching live could do that as well before we move into committee. Is that okay? Yep. All right. So we'll move into agenda item number 15, which is LGOIMA update. C, could you speak to that report?
I'm happy to take questions.
Okay. So you've seen the report in there. It's an update on LGOIMAs. Thank goodness I've slightly less. Councillor Howard.
I just note that one of the LGOIMAs took 18 hours of staff time. I believe a lot of that was senior management. So that would come at quite an expense, what it would be if we charged. Would that be one, should we have had a LGOIMA policy about charging for some of these requests? Would that one have fallen into that criteria where we would have charged for at least some of that information?
We have discussed this before.
Through the chair, I mean, we don't have to have a LGOIMA policy in order to charge. So we do offer people, and I think thinking back, I can't remember the exact topic of that one. But normally after that particular one, I seem to remember that we've been a lot more circumspect before we embark on on a LGOIMA. So sometimes we'll say to the requester, actually, we do think it's going to be substantial. We think it's going to be, 3 to 4 days. Do you want to reconsider the scale of what you're asking? And so otherwise there would be a charge, because we can do it irrespective of a policy or not, because some people will just want to have that ability to pay. Normally, if you do say it's going to be substantial and it will be 4 days or whatever the hourly rate is, then they might decline or actually refocus. And the best thing is to actually refocus rather than a fishing expedition that's so broad, actually focus in on what the person is after. So that 18-hour one, I think we just set off with an expectation it'd be a lot smaller, but it just ended up being bigger than we thought it was. So we do try and think about that before we set off now.
Any more comments regarding those? Obviously, there's a significant amount of staff time involved, but it is difficult charging because you're actually trying to make it easy for people to get information if they request it. However, there is a physical staff time and it does take them away from other roles. But I want to thank Simon and the staff for fielding such a large number of LGOIMA requests. And good to see that. Good to see there has been a slight drop, but I mean that's seasonal, no doubt. Mr. Mayor.
Just one question for staff. Is there any reason why the requesters remain anonymous? And I just wonder whether or not there's any value in being open and transparent around where these cost centres are being incurred. Is there any obligation on us or is that public information? If someone wanted to LGOIMA counsel on who applied for LGOIMAs, would that information be provided?
Through the chair, there's probably no reason we couldn't make those. So just to check, Your Worship, you're referring to the top number of requesters, for example. Yeah, there's no reason why we couldn't. We've just anonymised them for this report, but we could name them in the future.
Councillor Reddy.
Yeah, it's a question of privacy. There is no way, I'm happy to be corrected on this, there is no way that you can record a person's name who has requested a LGOIMA or an OIA. And I don't know why, even under public excluded, why names should be even made available to anybody around this table, because I know what will happen. It is privacy, and I'm going to stick up to that as well, please. There is no way.
Councillor Grafton.
Yeah, I sort of agree with that. But haven't we named them in the past? I'm sure we've seen them in the past.
I believe we have too.
And not that distance past, so why have we changed now?
Councillor Sampson.
I think we have seen them in the past, and on the flip side, you'll hear different people say, I requested a LGOIMA. So people will come out and show it's coming from the person themselves, but I'm sure we've seen the list before.
I believe it was in a public excluded meeting. Yes, Councillor Reddy.
Yeah, agreed. And it was under the previous CEO, and my name was on there, and it took 2 hours. 2 hours to go to the computer, look up procurement policy, and send it off. They put down 2 hours for that, and really it's only about a 20-minute, I'll give them credit, 30-minute exercise. So I questioned that with the then CEO and said, you're kidding me. How many of these other hours that have been recorded against are true? Okay, I can give a personal example as to maybe they're overinflated to a certain extent. Experienced it.
Mr. Mayor.
If my rates are being used to conduct this research, to answer the LGOIMAs, then I think in the interest of transparency, I want to know who's costing me that money. If we can legally do that, I don't think it's an unreasonable request, but.
Good check, and I just suggest that we'll get some advice and then make a decision.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, I'm hearing the bell. That was the last public agenda item, and the draft recommendation that the LGOIMA update dated 17th September be received. I'm happy to move that. Do I have a second of that, Mr. Mayor? Any further discussion before we put that to vote? No, good. All those in favour? Passed unanimously. I'd now like to move that we move into public excluded. Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Weston. All those in favour? You have a discussion about public excluded?
Yes.
Yes.
There's two items in there, in public excluded. One is to do with privacy of living or deceased persons. The other one is to do with commercial activity. Now, when one looks at the I had a read of it last night, the Ombudsman had to comment on what we're talking about for the Kawatiri, for example. Everyone around the country knows that the Kawatiri is looking for work. Everyone is aware of all the ports that are in this country who need dredging. There is no requirement, I believe, to have this commercially sensitive. It's not commercially sensitive. Give me a reason why. We're not talking dollars. We're not talking contracts. As for the internal audit that we had in terms of payroll and creditors, protect the privacy of a living or deceased person. We're not talking names here. All we're doing is talking discussing the outcome of the internal audit. That should be made available unless PwC say no. Then I believe we should be discussing this in the public arena. The public need to be aware of where failings have occurred. The public should also be made aware of the fact that they've been identified previously, and we've had to spend money to actually undertake these. So I disagree that we go into public excluded except for one item, and that was the minutes.
Thank you. There is another item as well, but thank you for that discussion. Awesome. So it's been moved and seconded that we go into public excluded. All those in favour? Those against? Two against. So we are in public excluded. We are going to have a 7 or 8 minute break. So thank you to those people online, and for councillors who need a coffee break or a bathroom break, they can do that.
Yeah.